Having a strategy is absolutely critical for your organization, and I've been taking you through a series of videos that will help you facilitate your very own strategic planning conversation. I started with understanding the purpose and the strategic goals for your organization, got into some more depth about the difference between strategic and operational goals, and in the most recent video, talked about how you can think about not a SWOT analysis, where you take your strengths and weaknesses and use that constrained view to look at the world, but actually how you can reverse that and understand the opportunities and threats in the environment and how you're set up to capitalize on them. So now we're into the most important and most fun and interesting and difficult part of strategic planning, which is where you actually figure out the strategy. So the strategy layer, which I call your strategic imperatives. So a strategic imperative for me is just a singular of one strategic imperative plus more strategic imperatives adds up to a strategy. So, because stratagem, I think that's the right Latin, just sounds weird. So, a strategic imperative is an insight you have about how you need to change the trajectory of your business, how you need to change how you make decisions, how you're shifting the guiding principles in your organization to achieve your purpose and your strategic goals in the environment you're operating in, given your current strengths and weaknesses. So we've just added up all the things that are above the strategy on the strategy map: purpose, strategic goals, opportunities, threats, strengths, and weaknesses. All of it together becomes the so what of strategy. So we're trying to get at, all right, knowing what we're here to accomplish and where we're positioned right now, where do we need fundamental change in how we make decisions? What's going to be our source of competitive advantage? What do we need to do next? And this set, usually 4 or 5 strategic imperatives, should capture everything that really is maximally important, so primary and critical to the health of your organization. There's probably going to be an imperative in some way about your core offering. Is there a way your product or service needs to be different? Do you need to solve a different problem for your customers? Is technology going in a way that you need to I think about one of the most interesting strategies I've ever learned about is the Nintendo Wii when that came out. So they were in this, race for speed and visual accuracy in the gaming world, everything looking hyper realistic, and all of a sudden they had this insight based on how the world was changing. Post September 11th, people were staying home. They were nesting and spending a lot more money in their living rooms. At the same time, gaming was starting to get a reputation among parents that it was sedentary lifestyle, childhood obesity was rising, and at the same time, technology advances made gyroscopes and different user interfaces more possible. So all of a sudden, if you're the team sitting around creating strategy for Nintendo Wii, you have this, what if we could actually make our product more physical, more what if we could have it be seen as exercise equipment? And the We and We Fit and We Sport and all of these things were born before we were doing the silly funny karaoke things on the Wii. We were doing Dance Dance Revolution and those sorts of things. It was a brilliant insight about how they could create competitive advantage, not by going further, better, clearer on single person shooter games, but actually by dialing back the realism, but really, really, really changing the product in terms of how interactive, how physical it was. I remember buying a Wii for my mom for her 75th birthday. I never would have done that with an Xbox. So they had this insight about how the product need to change. There are other insights that may be changing how you go to market. It may be about accessing different pools of customers, maybe something internal about needing to automate more, needing to change the way that your organization works together. If you can get to a set of 4 or 5 really critical primary ways that your organization needs to think differently, change trajectory, pay attention to new things. That is going to be a true strategy that everyone in the organization can help you work toward. I remember another really, really, really memorable strategy process of a US-based technology company that was thinking about expansion. They were trying to grow with their small to medium-sized business customers, which meant going to new countries as their clients did. But as they started considering strategically, do we need to be a global company from now on? As they thought about it and thought about the implications on the technology, having multiple languages in the software, having data centers in all the places, dealing with European privacy standards, the thought of this relatively small company diluting its resources to be global was much, much, much too daunting. But their imperative became to be global enough. We need to be able to, if we could be in the UK and Hong Kong, that would solve, 80% of our potential customers would be addressed by doing that. Global enough. How could we be global enough in our hiring, global enough in our marketing, in our sales approach? It was brilliant to understand that strategically, every single time they needed to think about, is this global enough? What different choice would we make to be global enough? So these are the kinds of insights that you're looking for at this strategic imperative level. What needs to be different? Let me play out a different case, just a hypothetical case. Let's imagine you're a not-for-profit and, post-COVID, you're thinking about, nobody is going back to commuting on public transit, or not enough people. People have become afraid. They're staying in their cars. We're seeing a lot more fossil fuels. We're seeing tons of traffic. And your not-for-profit is here to try and get people. You're a green, eco-friendly kind of organization. So as you're thinking about this, you're thinking about, okay, well, it may be that for a time, public transportation is not the issue. We have this point in time where we can go after bicycling, cycling as a key thing. But as you think about it, you think, okay, well, cycling, what's going to make a difference there? Well, infrastructure, right? We know that to cycle, we need more bike lanes, we need that kind of support. And you think, oh, okay, well, we've really been a national-based charity, but so much of the infrastructure decision-making sits at the municipal level. So while there's infrastructure funding, lots of it at the federal level, where the decisions are going to be made, where we're going to get bike lanes, where we're going to get, more places to store your bike safely, bike sharing programs, all of those things are going to be at the municipal level. And you may have an insight that strategically we need to win City Hall. So having a win City Hall insight or imperative, how do we make every decision now thinking about doing a better job of winning City Hall? You may need completely new capabilities. You may need lobbyist and advocacy at a level you've never done before. So it's really, really, really valuable when you say, if we're here to, decarbonize the commute, maybe that's your purpose as an organization, and your strategic goals are really around the percentage of commutes and number of hours of commute that can shift from some kind of fossil fuel based into some kind of eco-friendly. And you say, but in this environment, there are so many decisions and so much of what needs to happen is at municipal level. You end up with an imperative around, winning City Hall. So this level where you really think about, what do we need to do differently? How do we need to make decisions differently? How do we need to allocate our resources differently if we're going to achieve our purpose, get to those strategic goals? We're going to do it in the emerging environment, given our current strengths and weaknesses. Putting all of that together, your answer should be 3, 4, 5 strategic imperatives about what needs to shift for you. It's a hard question to answer. You will go back and forth many, many, many times. You'll try things on and they'll be okay. But when you get the right one, like Global Enough or Win City Hall, when you get the right imperative, you can almost hear it click into place. and really people rally around it. It will become very sticky. People will be talking about it in your organization, and that's how you know your strategy is working. Okay, that's strategic imperatives. Next, the final step in the process, how do you put your money where your mouth is? We'll talk about strategic projects.